When I first started getting into photography, I struggled a lot. I found it difficult to understand the exposure triangle and how to properly use the white balance. I didn't know much about lenses and focal length. It took a lot of practice and patience, but in the end, I learned the basics and improved my skills. And in this video, I want to share with you some of the essential things that every beginner photographer should know. When it comes to photography, cameras are generally better than phones because they have larger sensors. Larger sensors capture more light and details, resulting in higher quality images. Phone cameras have smaller sensors, which can limit their ability to capture details and produce high quality images, especially in low light conditions. The exposure triangle is an essential concept in photography that every beginner should know. It refers to the relationship between the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. These three elements work together to control the amount of light that enters the camera, which in turn affect the brightness and sharpness of the image. Understanding the exposure triangle is crucial for achieving a proper exposure and creating the desired effect in your photos. The first element of the exposure triangle is called ISO. It represents the sensitivity of the camera's sensor to the light. A higher ISO setting allows you to take photos in low light conditions, but can also introduce more noise or glare into the image. Lower ISO settings produce less noise, but requires more light to properly expose the image. The second element is called shutter speed. Shutter speed is exactly what it sounds like. It's the speed at which the shutter of the camera closes. A fast shutter speed creates a shorter exposure, which means a shorter time where the amount of light enters the camera. And a slow shutter speed gives the photographer a long exposure, which is used frequently in night photography. The last element is called aperture. Aperture in photography is the opening of the camera lens, which is related to the amount of light that passes through the camera lens to the camera sensor. Aperture adjustment affects two things: exposure and field of depth. The wider the aperture is open, the more exposure and depth of field we get. White balance is used to adjust colors to match the color of the light source, so that white objects appear white. We can simply say that white balance is the degree of warmth of a video or a photo. Unfortunately, composition is a detailed topic, but I promise that I will make a video to cover it entirely. But for now, we can say that composition is the art of placing the objects inside a frame in order to make it catchy and unique. The most known composition techniques are framing, leading lines, symmetry, rule of thirds, and others, which we will talk about them in another video, as I said. Lenses are the most important equipments in photography. Every lens has two main specs, which are the focal length and aperture. We can classify them based on the focal length as follows: fisheye, which is useful for abstract and creative; wide angle for the landscape and architecture; standard for street, travel and portrait; telephoto for street photography, portrait, wildlife and sports; and macro for close-up shots like flowers, insects or eyes. Cameras can shoot pictures in two formats, RAW and JPEG. And as an advice, always shoot in RAW format because RAW pictures contain more information than JPEG pictures. And remember, the more information you have in the editing, the more control you have over the picture, the better results you can get. So that's what we have for today's video. I hope that the video was useful and that you learned new things that can help you to start your photography journey. If you like it, please don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to see more. And if you have something to say or ask, please leave me a comment and I will try to answer you as soon as possible. See you in the next video. Bye.